Welcome to Don Bosco in a Year podcast.
Day 63. The new building collapses. The year 1852. The new church, complete with sacristy and bell tower, enabled us to provide for the youngsters who wished to attend the sacred services on feast days, the night school, and the day classes too. But how were we to provide for the multitude of poor children who were appealing for shelter all the time? This was the more acute because the explosion of the powder magazine the year before had almost ruined our ancient building. In that moment of supreme need, we decided to build a new wing on the house. In order to continue using the old building, we began the new one on a site a bit apart. It stretched from the end of the present refectory to the print foundry. The builders made rapid progress. Although autumn was already well along, they reached roof level. In fact, all the trusses had been put in place, all the cross pieces nailed in, and the tiles. Torrential rains interrupted all work. Water poured down for days and nights, flowing from the beams and the cross pieces. It wore and washed away the fresh mortar, leaving the walls only of soaked bricks and stones. Around midnight, when we were all in bed, we heard a loud rumble, which became louder and more frightening by the moment. Everyone woke up, and completely ignorant of what was happening, utterly terrified, wrapped in blankets and sheets, all ran from the dormitory and fled in confusion with no idea where to go, with only the idea of putting distance between himself and the danger, as one can imagine. The noise and chaos got worse. The roof framework and the tiles mixed with the wall material. Everything collapsed into ruins with a mighty roar. Since that construction had stood against the wall of the lower, older building, we feared that everything lay flattened under a pile of rubble. But, as it proved, the only harm was to the horrendous noise, which caused no personal injury. City engineers came to inspect things in the morning. When Chef Gibetti saw another pillar cracked at the base and leaning over a dormitory, he exclaimed, "You should go and give thanks to Our Lady of Consolation. Only a miracle is keeping that pillar up. If it had fallen, it would have buried in rubble Don Bosco and 30 boys sleeping in the dormitory below." As the building was still unfinished, most of the loss was the builders. Our damage was estimated at 10,000 francs. The accident took place at the midnight on 2nd December 1852. Amid the continual sad afflictions which befall the poor human race, there is always the loving hand of our Lord to lighten our misfortune. If the disaster had happened a couple of hours earlier, it would have buried our night school pupils. They finished their lessons at 10, and when they came out of their classrooms, about 300 of them, they used to run around the empty building under construction for half an hour or so. A little later, the collapse occurred. Not only did the advanced season no longer allow work on our ruined house to be completed, we could not even begin to rebuild part of it. In the meantime, who would provide for us in such straits? What could we do for so many boys with such limited facilities? And these half ruins? We made a virtue of necessity. After the walls of the old church had been reinforced, we became a dormitory. We then transferred classes to the new church, which was therefore a church on the feast days, a school during the week. The bell tower besides the church of St. Francis de Sales was also built in this year. Our benefactor, Mr. Michael Scanagati, presented us with an elegant set of candlesticks for the high altar, which are still one of the most beautiful furnishings of this church. For reflection, 1. Don Bosco never seemed to lose heart at the misfortunes. Maybe he grew up that way right from when he was 2 years. How is your disposition in the fact of some misfortune? 2. Don Bosco and his boys had a special eye for miracles. They could observe a miracle even in the worst of events and thank God for it. What do you think? Are in miracles more in the eye and the heart of the beholder? 3. Pioneering a work is demanding and at the same time a wonderful experience. Have you ever had such experiences? Anything special to recall?
Thank you for joining us today on this journey to know Don Bosco. May these reflections deepen our faith, guide us closer to God each day, and hope to see you all tomorrow. Till then, keep seeking, keep praying, keep growing.